So what we're going to talk about today is problems that will oftentimes happen whenever you are rigging a character after bringing them in from Adobe Fuse. Adobe Fuse is a great program. It has just a ton of awesome things about it. However, it does some funny stuff that can actually make life a little harder when it comes to animating a character. So if I just click on the armature here and I go into pose mode, and instead of oh, I forgot, it's not. So let me just put inverse kinematics on this. I didn't do that. So let's just take inverse kinematics on the foot, for instance. I know that this is going to go poorly because I've done this already before today. And I just hit the G key and I grab and I point the toes. Okay. One of the things that happens with Adobe Fuse is a lot of times it brings in the body parts as separate objects. And then when you go and you do the automatic weighting, it doesn't always work the way you want it to. And so what should really happen is it should be stretching the pant a little bit to the foot and the foot a little bit to the shin to actually kind of keep a nice, smooth transition between the two objects. But that didn't happen. So really quickly, I'm just going to go through and add my inverse kinematics on each. Chain length of 3 on the hands, the feet and the palms. Also notice with the feet, what I did there is I put the IK on the main bone, not the toes. And that's actually really important. If you try to do it on the toes, it just ends up being a mess. The toes end up always like bending wrong. It's just easier to keep them separate. And then each of the feet. And I wish you could do inverse kinematics at the same time, just like shift click on all of them and do that. But unfortunately enough, you can't. So, whatever. Do what you can. And then that'll work really well. So there we go. We'll just do the one hand so that we can do the illustration. Now, so one of the other things that you'll notice is actually the head. Let me put an IK on here too. 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case. And if you notice when you put IK on, it's got a little dotted line that shows you the base of the bone. So now here I'm going to show you another real issue. And if I hit the head and I hit grab, okay, you'll see some things happen. Now, it's very rare that I would ever have the head in a position like that. But it's, I guess, theoretically possible. We've got all sorts of problems. Number one, the eyelashes. I don't even bother with those from Fuse. They're horrible. So let's just delete those. The beard didn't go at all. And when I parented the beard to the armature, it gave me an error. In fact, let's just go do that again, just so that everybody can kind of see that error, because it's something that you really want to look to. So I'm going to hit beard to armature, Alt-P to get rid of the parent. Okay. And then I'll select the beard and then the armature again, and I'm going to go Control-P with automatic weights and look up here where the statistics usually are, number of vertices, number of faces, and all that sort of stuff, and it's going to give me a very specific error. Boom. It says bone heat weighting failed to find solution for one or more bones. It just doesn't like the way that Fuse does beards. In fact, I'm really surprised that the hair actually worked at all. It's really surprising. So we'll take care of the beards manually too. The other big problem that we have is you can see how the neck is pulling away from the shirt, and it's basically the exact same problem that we're having with our feet, and that is that you just have this problem where the objects aren't going to do what they're supposed to do because they're separate. So we have basically two solutions, one that's really hard and one that's really simple, but the simple one doesn't always work. So we're going to do that. Now the hard one is to go through and weight paint everything. And I could do that. However, that takes more time. So it's worth it to try and figure out how to do this without going through the weight painting. I'm going to have to do weight painting on the beard, and we'll get to that in a minute. But right now, really the solution to this is take the objects and make them one. Now, in the previous video that I did with adding things to the armature, I basically had everything booleaned together. But I found that sometimes that causes even more troubles, especially if you boolean the hair and the beard and you do a union and you have the hair and the beard as part of the body. That usually makes a big mess. But oftentimes taking the pants and the shirt and making a boolean and adding those to the body doesn't seem to be a problem. So that's really going to be our solution. So let me go back into object mode here, and I'm actually going to take my guy here. I'm going to leave the armature in the pose that it is in so that you can really actually kind of see what happens here with the foot and the neck as soon as we do this again. So I'm going to take the gloves, the bottoms, the body, the tops, and I'm going to then click on the armature. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to hit Alt-P. I'm going to clear parent, and I'm not going to keep the transformation. I'm just going to clear the parent. Boom. And now everything kind of goes back to normal. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the bottoms, the gloves, and the tops, and I'm just going to leave the body. So you can kind of see what that entails with the body. Let's turn off the armature too so we can kind of see this working well. And let's turn off the eyeballs, the mustaches, the hair, and the beard, because we're not really worried about those. Now I'm going to go to my modifiers. Whoops. I'm still on the armature. Click on the body. Go to my modifiers. I'm going to add a boolean. I'm going to change it to union. And I turned off the body so that we could see what happens when I add that. So, or not turned off the body, I turned off the tops and stuff. So I'm going to turn the top, I'm going to do a union with the tops, and then I'm about to hit apply. But before I do that, what I really want to do right now is just hit save. Because if this doesn't work, I might end up going past the number of undos that Blender, I almost said Unity, that Blender allows us to do. So it's good to save it just before you start doing these booleans so that at very worst you can revert back to the original file. So then I'm going to hit apply. Then I'm going to go and add another boolean. And I'm going to do a union, and I'm going to add the bottoms. And then I'm going to hit apply. And what that does is if I tab into edit mode, it actually applies it and they become one mesh. And then finally I'm going to push my luck, and I'm going to add a third boolean, and I'm going to go for the gloves. Let's just see what happens here. And I'm not sure. When I did this demo previously and I was practicing it, I only did the tops and the bottoms. I didn't do the gloves. And it still works pretty well, but we'll see. So now I'm going to take the body, and I click on that. I'm going to shift left click on the armature in my outliner here. You could shift right click in the view. And now I'm going to hit Control P. I'm going to hit Control P. Well, it's not working. Why not? Oh, because the armature's turned off. Duh. So click on the body, then click on the armature. The armature has to be visible for this to work. Control P with automatic weights. And let's see, does it give me an error? So we're looking for the same error that would come up here if it couldn't do the bones. But now all of a sudden, take a look. The ankle looks a lot better. We are having a little bit of mesh problems here with the shirt. And we could solve that by going into edit mode on the body. And actually, if I go wireframe, you could start deleting some of the mesh, the vertices that are underneath the body there. Okay, you could actually start doing that if you wanted to, and that might help a little bit. But I find that you generally don't have to do that because honestly, when is my character ever going to be in that kind of a position? Very rarely, right? So I'm doing an extreme position to kind of help myself understand what's going on, but that's never going to happen. So then I go back into pose mode here, and I can take my wrists and I can hit G to grab, and I can start to test and see what's going to happen. And so for the most part, that's looking really good. It's actually looking really good. So, however, the face, we have major issues. What we have to do is we have to deal with something called weight painting. Now the beard is the easiest one to kind of illustrate this with because it failed completely. So all you have to do is keep the armature in pose mode. That's really important. And then you're going to click on the object that you want to do weight painting on. And then under object mode, you'll see there's a new option called weight paint. This only happens when an object is parented to, or a child of, an armature with weighting put on it. So if I have this weight paint, I can click on it, and you can see that it's all blue. It shouldn't be. So let me click on the body here, and if I go to weight paint, whenever I select a bone, you can see how pieces of that are weighted. Red means that the bone is controlling that part of the mesh heavily, and it fades out from red to orange to yellow to green to light blue and then to a dark cold blue. And so the cold blue basically means that there is no weighting whatsoever on that portion of the body. So if you take a look at this, and rightly so, the upper arm has heavy weighting here, and then lighter weighting around the joint, and then no weighting along the forearm, and very little weighting around the chest. You might want to even make it a little less weighted right here along the pectoral and collarbone, because it's going to move that a lot. And if you want to try it, you hit grab, and you can see how it's kind of altering the shape of the mesh on the chest. And you might or might not want that, and you can individually change each one. So if I go and I click on the beard, and then I click on the head bone, this should be pretty much all red, but it's not. Now if I click on the body again and then click on the head bone, you can kind of see how it works. And you can also see that the jawline area is mostly green and yellow. And that kind of makes sense, but we're going to make all that pure red so that because if you really wanted to have it move, you would, how do I say this? If you really wanted to have the jaw move correctly, you would actually need to do an armature for the entire face, right? Bones around the mouth, you know, one for the tongue. Like, you can really get in there and do that, and it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, it's not working correctly there. So, whatever. So let's go back to the beard. And so what I can do is I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to set my weight paint up to 1, which is the highest, my strength up to 1, and I'm going to stay on mix. Now, you can play with this. If you don't want to stay on mix, you don't have to, but I like it. I think it's much better. And then I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to start painting, and you're going to start seeing it's going to start moving. And you can see that it doesn't do it immediately the first time, right? It takes a lot of little clicks to really get it in there, but at least it's kind of going where it's supposed to go. And now that it's red, you can see that it's actually up and bending with the bone. And what you're actually doing when you use weight painting is you're actually coloring or affecting the vertices. So if you think about that, you're affecting, let's take the armature and turn it off visually here for a second. Oh, that's that bad idea. Let's turn it to, let's go to the little person. We're going to turn it to bones, sticks. There we go. So that's a little easier to see. So if you imagine where the vertices are, all the little corners, that's what you're clicking on. So if you have a big face and you click in the middle, it won't change colors. It's only changing colors around the edges, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. The other thing is, you really honestly have to worry about both sides. So if I turn the body off here, now you can actually see there's some things that weren't really painting there. Okay, they're along the edge. And then if I spin around, oh boy, you can see a whole bunch. Now one of the things you can do if you've only got a single thing here, so I can just take the radius up and, you know, just do a few big clicks, and you know, rotate around, make sure I get everything, and you can actually see a few right there. So you have to kind of really look at it from a whole bunch of different viewpoints to really get, especially when it's a complicated object like this that just has a lot of faces and a lot of layers. The good news is, if nothing else is influencing this, which nothing else should be, you should be fine. One of the things that I always try to do is I'll then click on another bone, and I'll take my weight to 0, and I just click on it a couple times, make sure everything is set to 0. Now, of course, it's going to be on the beard because the beard failed. Like it said, it couldn't do any weights. It failed completely. So that's not a big deal. Let's go back to our body, and let's look at how that's working. So you can see that the jawline is not red. We can also see the teeth and the tongue and the lower palate are still out there, and there's a reason for that. If you right-click, I noticed on the upper arm or shoulder, see how that's a part of the shoulder? It's kind of weird, okay? So we have to kind of deal with that a little bit. So It's also important, this is another real tip, if you're doing weight painting, you want to click on any of the bones. I mean, I've seen some stuff where the hands were being weighted by the foot. You know, so watch what's happening when you grab an object and you rotate it around, okay? If all of a sudden you see things moving on the other side, that means that there's weight somehow. Somehow the automatic weighting went from the foot to the fingertips. I mean, it happens. Usually it doesn't. It's usually much smarter than that. But with a complicated character, it can do some stupid things. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this in, and we need to do a couple of things. First, let's take care of the jaw. So I'm going to turn my beard off so I can see what I'm doing. Take my radius way back down. Okay, that's pretty good. Take my weight back up. And I'm just going to make sure that the head is red all the way around the upper part of the body first. Just kind of get that all done. Okay, and get the ears and everything. That looks good. Okay, so now we've got that. Now I need to start worrying about this. Okay, so first I'll get the mouth in there. And it's cool how it just, you see the changes immediately, which I really appreciate. The way that they did this, I think it's pretty cool, and it could have been done in another way that wouldn't have been so nice. But now I'm getting to the jaw, and I want the neck to stretch a little bit with the jaw, right? I mean, that makes sense that it would stretch a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the strength down, and that's basically like doing opacity. So as I start to do that, you can see it get kind of orangey in places. And it starts affecting the power a little bit more, and I can really kind of take this and make it work better. Okay? And you can really see how I'm affecting the geometry pretty heavily. And that's actually working. I'll take the strength down even more, maybe, you know, and then just kind of paint in there a little bit, just get along the jawline, and that looks pretty darn good. That is working really well. Now we need to go back to the teeth. So one of the things that I'll do is you're going to get teeth. Now, one of the big things that happens to a lot of people, one of the big mistakes, is they accidentally paint something that's in the background. If this is all one object and I'm going like this and I'm painting, see, I may be hitting the chin, but I'm also getting the hand behind it too. So you want to be really mindful of your angles. You can also see, boy, I really hit that pretty hard. I'm not quite sure how that happened. So I'm going to take the weight down to 0, my strength up. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to try and take care of those vertices right there so that they're not being affected too hard or harshly by whatever I was doing. And some of this actually maybe needs to be affected a little bit more too. So maybe I would go take my weight about here and bring some cold blue in. It's really not working. I'm betting, actually, now that I'm looking at this, if I click here, look at that. So there we've got some major problems with that one. So that's where I would probably take this. Oh, that's looking so much better. Take some of that away from the shoulder bone to make that look a little bit more natural. Voila. Okay. Actually, I think I just really screwed that up more. So we could kind of work on that. You'll get it. And it's a play-by-play thing. So let's do the teeth. I was getting distracted here. So we'll do the teeth here. So again, take my weight up, my strength all the way up. I want to hit these things as fast as I can. And now what's going to happen is you're going to have problems. Because now what's going to happen is they go in, but they don't go all the way, which is so frustrating to me, right? And part of the reason why they don't do that is because, guess what? They're being influenced by this. So take the weight all the way down, okay? And then this one, take it all the way down. Oops. I just accidentally painted the shoulder off. There we go. And see, now they're starting to really work. But you'll get to a point where they're inside there, but they're not really in there, right? And that's another big problem. And see what we got here. See, like, that's good. So one of the things that you can do that will help you out here, it looks so bizarre and so disturbing. There's a trick that was actually taught to me by one of my students. And And this is a good trick, so I'm going to teach it to you. And it's very funny. So one of the things that you can do with bones, other than just move them around, is you can scale them. And so if I hit S while I've selected the head bone, I can make the head really small. And what that allows me to do is then see some of the vertices in the tongue and stuff like that that haven't been painted red yet. So then I can kind of hit those and get those there. The other thing you might have to do, and this is just in all honesty, is sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and paint something that you don't want to paint. So I might have to just paint the neck a little bit just so that I can get these vertices, and then I will unpaint the neck. I know it's horribly technical. Oops. See, I don't want to get that. Now, the other thing is, depending upon what your character's doing, you might not even need all of this, right? Because if your character doesn't have the open mouth, we can actually delete the vertices of the palate and the teeth and all that sort of stuff straight in the thing. I can also see here we've got some problems with some ear, like around the ears there, so I'm going to take care of that. I will do that often when I'm doing weight painting, like get distracted by something else that I feel like I can fix a little easier. It looks really, really bizarre and really upsetting. So, but now what I can also do is I can take some of these other things that are in here, and I can scale them down too. So I can scale the neck muscle down, or the neck bone. I don't know why I said neck muscle. Scale that down, and that will help me kind of get rid of some of these things that are still in the way. And then I can click back on the head bone, and then hopefully get an angle. There we go. Where I can kind of do everything. Now, it's not really moving much, is it? So that tells me that something else is still kind of having an influence over it. So I've got to do some problem solving here, which is good, and figure out what is causing all those issues. So now what I might do is click here. Oh, yeah, there's still pieces that are being influenced by the shoulder muscle or the shoulder bone there. That helps. Let me guess, this one too? Yup. And now you can see it's actually really scaling itself down a ton here. There's still something else going on. Maybe it's this one. This one. Oh, it's the main body. Okay. So what I could do is, let's see if I can scale that up. That can help me get... Oh, yeah, there we go. And I think we just about got it all. All right. So now that that's just about all done, now what I can do is I can hit Select All. Click back on the armature, so I'm in pose mode, go to Clear Transform All. And now it just kind of comes back right back to normal. And let's test. That's acting a lot more naturally. That's acting a lot more naturally. That's probably perfect. Now, I mean perfect for what we're going to be doing in the course of a video game. And like I said, if you're actually animating the mouth opening and closing and you want to do like vocal, stuff like that, like lip syncing, okay, this is not the video for you to follow. But we're not doing that, okay? So, and don't even get any ideas. So we've kind of solved that. It looks pretty good. And, we can now sit here and kind of go through and take a look at all the different things, and we could, like make that a little bit more green. So I'll go to the middle and I'll just kind of, there we go, a little greener. There we go. Take some influence away from that there. And I don't really want it to have any influence there, so I take that off. And some of this may have happened when I was, painting. That looks pretty good. How about this one? That makes sense. There we go. And there, oh, that makes sense, but I don't really want it to control too much of the other side of the body. And you can just go through, and it takes a little while to kind of get that set up, but it should not have any influence on that side of the body. That looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Yeah. So you can basically just check each bone and check its influences on the body. This weight painting you could have done to fix the original problem where the feet, the top of the ankles were opening up and you could see inside. Like, you could have done that with weight painting. But hopefully you get a sense now. Complicated weight painting can actually become, I think, really, really, really complicated. So you don't want to, get too complicated with it, right? You want to really have as simple a solution as possible. Let's put it that way, right? But now I've got a pretty darn good look. Now, there's a couple other things that I need to check here. So the beard looks pretty good. Let's just make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do, and it is. Looks pretty good. As I click on this, the beard is not in weight paint mode, but there we go. I click on that. That's all red. Now let's go to the mustache. The mustache had things that were floating around. So if I take the mustache and go to weight paint, you'll see that some pieces of the mustache were actually floating around. So we're going to turn off the body and the beard, and you can really see what's going on here. So we'll just take full weight, kind of get those, put those back in. So a lot of times on any pieces of hair from Fuse, the weight painting or the automatic weights kind of fails, and you just got to go through everything. The eyeballs, which I don't know why it names them default, but that's okay. You go to weight paint on those, click on the head bone. You want to make sure that they are solid red everywhere, because if you don't, if they're orange or green, they'll stretch a little bit and then they won't stay in the eye sockets. And let me tell you, that looks awesome, right? Eyeballs floating around. It does look really, really, really awesome when that happens. I'm joking, okay? Oh, and lastly, the hair. And one of the things you'll notice about the hair, if I go to weight paint, is again, there are some things that didn't go. So we have like these pieces here. I don't know why they didn't go, but they didn't go. So we'll just kind of put those in there, kind of get them all set up here. And they did return straight back to normal, so I'm not too worried about another bone that has influence over them, but I should, check each one. Now that's normal, and that's probably pretty good to have the back of the hair have influence as part of the neck bone. So you generally want that, and it looks pretty good. All right. So now we should have a character that I can move pretty darn easily. I went into edit mode there accidentally for a second. So if I just go back to object mode for each one of these things, okay, and then I can click on my armature, and I should be able just to grab bones and start doing that. Now when that doesn't happen, obviously now we've got a problem. This probably happened when I was weight painting with the head, so I probably need to check and see what's going on here. So go back to the body, go back to weight paint mode, click on the forearm, because that looks like it's part of the forearm, and why it's not red, I don't know. So we'll just take it. There we go. That one was simple. And you just want to take your character and you just want to test them. So see how that's bending around the neck there? We got issues, so let's click here. See, now that shouldn't be. So I'll take the weight back to 0, and I'll just go in there like that. So a lot of the issues will be very, very simple. And honestly, I probably created those issues when I was weight painting the rest of the head and trying to get the teeth in there, right? So, it gets frustrating, but it's worth it. Because once you get it done, you'll have a character that you can animate and you can, do some pretty cool stuff with, okay? And you won't have his teeth running through and stuff like that. But also be realistic. Like, what are you really honestly going to do with the character? Might make him like that a little bit or something. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. You're not going to be doing much. So we're going to be doing a basic walk cycle, and that's, and a few other things, and that's it. So for video gaming, unless you're doing mouth motions, the rig can be pretty easy. And we can, again, we can go into edit mode and solve that. So here we have some mesh coming through. I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to go into wireframe. And what I'm going to do is you can kind of see how this comes down to a point right there. I'm just going to take that point and I'm going to delete it. And that may or may not fix it. Let's see what happens. Nope. So I might need to start deleting more of that skin, or that could be a weight painting issue too. So if deleting it creates a big hole, then I just need to go back into my weight paint mode, and I need to start figuring out why that's doing that. Maybe because it doesn't have enough influence from certain parts of the neck. You know, so put my weight about here, and just do that, and then here, and maybe a little less. Nope, that's making it worse. Go a little bit more. And if I do stuff like that, you can see how it's getting better very slowly. I'll be able to make things happen so that the weight paint works. And you just go through each bone that's nearby, and yeah, you get the, oh, there we go. So little green, take the weight paint there, a little more green. How about this one? Now, see, this doesn't do anything. Make sure that's set. How about this one? Nope. So you're just going through and you're just trying it. Ah, see, that has a little bit of influence there. So maybe we set that to 0 and just get the collar out. Oh, see, that made it worse. So you experiment a little bit, and then you move the character and you figure out what happens, and then you experiment a little bit more. Hopefully this gives you a sense of how to fix your characters once you bring them in from Fuse. There's no like solve all in one formula that will help every single character that you create. All I can tell you is that the beards are usually the things that fail the most. They're pretty easy to take care of, as is the head and the teeth, as long as you use that little trick that I showed you where you scale something down to make it really small and get it out of the way so that you can weight paint the stuff that's not affected by the bone. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? All right. Let's try it. Let's see what happens.